Hello everybody and welcome to the second annual Reviewing Network Awards. You're probably noticing right now that this is going to be a rather different Reviewing Network Awards than it was last year. And that's mostly because I'm recording this the week prior to when this actually is going to be posted, which will be on March the 9th. And usually I like to do this so if there's any copyright problems or any editing problems that I can have to worry about beforehand, I have a week's time to actually get it out there. But this past week has been kind of rough for a number of different reasons. One, I had a death in my family that happened middle of the week, which unfortunately was kind of expected, but it kind of happened. It kind of happened right around this time. This coming Tuesday. It's actually a week before, this past Tuesday it actually happened. But on top of that, everybody in my family got food poisoning, including myself, and we all went to this restaurant after we had the wake on Thursday, and we had the funeral we had the blessing service on Friday. But we all went out to this restaurant, and then by Thursday night, I really was not feeling very good, and I actually threw up a couple times, and I've been sick the last couple of days. So on top of that, I just had a cold the last couple weeks ago, I should say. But yeah, it's been a rough couple of weeks, so that's why this isn't as, elaborate or as productive as last year's show was or the year before. So that's why this is mostly going to be an audio version of the Reviewing Network Awards. It's basically going to feel like the old Oscar ceremonies from the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. When a lot of the clips weren't available, and you had to use the music, the sound clips. So basically, I should be sounding like this throughout the show. So let me do this. Tonight we're gathering to celebrate the year in movies, and no, I'm not going to do that to you, but this is a show talking about the year in movies. 2023 was a very productive year for movies, and a very big year for movies, with two of the most culturally significant movies of the year being, of course, Barbie and Oppenheimer, which received tons of nominations tonight. And usually I would have a longer speech prepared for this, but unfortunately, because of the way I've been feeling and the way that everything's been kind of building up the last couple of weeks with everything that's been going on, it's been a rough start to the year per se. But I'm going to power through here. So this isn't going to be like the last couple of shows when I have more production value to it. There is going to be the nominations here that I'm going to show you in just a second, but we're going to present the awards. We're going to present the awards here. We're going to do the special, the Achievement Award. We're also going to have the new categories. And, of course, we'll end the show, of course, with the Best Picture Award. So yeah, apologies if you were expecting a more elaborate production like I've had the last couple of years, which elaborate is more I can do on the budget that I have with this channel. But it's at least something. I at least feel like I owe you something after the last couple of days have been very, quiet for me. I've been resting. I've been trying to get better from these, and still grieving from what happened this past week. Yeah, let's try to lighten the mood here a little bit. Let's get to the actual awards. Let's take a look at the nominations and the categories that we have this year. And this year we have a total of, I believe it was 11 nominees, because this year I added a new category this year. And I'm actually going to start with that one to start the show off. And that is the Streaming Picture of the Year. I've said that streaming is more of an accessory than a necessity. I feel like streaming has not gotten to the point where it's become that thing that everybody really needs, because there's still a lot of flaws to it that still need to be addressed. There's still a lot of things about it that still needs to show that streaming can compete with other major forms of ways of watching movies, whether it's in a theater, whether it's watching it on Blu-ray, whether it's watching it on TV, or any way, shape, or form. But there were a couple movies this year that not only did that, but were worthy enough to be mentioned in this brand new category that I have here, and that is the Streaming Picture of the Year Award. Only 5 nominees in this category, and the nominees for Streaming Picture of the Year are Chang Can Dunk, Nimona, No One Will Save You, Rylang, Tetris. And the winner for Streaming Picture of the Year is Nimona. Now, this was a tough one because in my top 10 list, Rylang was actually higher on the list. And I really do like Rylang. I do like how much it reminded me so much of kind of a Before Sunrise setup here. But in terms of a movie that went through so much chaos and so much trouble to actually get to the finish line and actually get made. This was originally a film that was supposed to be produced by Blue Sky Studios when 20th Century Fox still had them. But, of course, Disney shut that project down when they shut Blue Sky Studios down. They allowed them to go somewhere else to film it, get it made, and Megan Ellison's Annapurna Pictures came along, and Netflix came along to pick it up as well. And so Nimona came out, and it turned into probably easily my second favorite animated film of the year. Had Across the Spider-Verse had not come out, that would have been my favorite film of the year, and it's really a towering achievement. That's something that really should be seen on a big screen. Like, it is such a well-animated film. It showed what Blue Sky Studios would have been capable of if they had gotten the support of Disney to actually continue making the film that they would have had here. And it probably would have been one of Disney's more successful films coming out in 2023 if they actually had made it. But it didn't. It went to Netflix, and sure enough, it made for a really, really damn good movie. Great animation, great storytelling, a brilliant voice cast led by Chloe Grace Moretz as the title character. I mean, that's one of the best characters I've seen in a long, long time. Fantastic, fantastic character. Just a terrific, terrific movie. I can't recommend this movie enough. Nimona, it's definitely worth a watch. It's the streaming picture of the year. So congratulations to Nimona. You get the Reviewing Network Award, the first ever Reviewing Network Award for streaming picture of the year. So now we head into the categories that we've talked about in the past. We've talked about including categories that probably you would never see in a regular award show. This one you probably wouldn't see in a major award show. Maybe the MTV Movie Awards back in the day probably would have done this. Probably would have, but I'm not too sure. But here are the nominees for the best sequel of 2023, and there were a lot of good ones to choose from here. Creed 3, The Equalizer 3, Evil Dead Rise, Godzilla Minus 1, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, John Wick Chapter 4, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And the winner is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which, I mean, I'm not going to spoil anything, but don't be surprised if this thing takes a chunk of your life because this movie really is my favorite film of 2023. So does that mean it's my best picture pick? Maybe not. We'll see later on. But Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse really was the quintessential movie of the year. I mean, I think Barbie and Oppenheimer got a lot of the praise this year, and this one kind of got left in the dust after it was really looking like this was going to have a major impact. But luckily, Barbie and Oppenheimer turned out to be great movies in the end. But Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse still is a phenomenal movie and a towering achievement. Like, to do the things that they were able to surpass from the first movie, which is already a masterpiece on its own right, to go above and beyond that, it's amazing what they were able to accomplish here. Not just from the animation perspective, but the story perspective, the way the film is paced, the way that they were able to tell a story that is easily going to be split into two parts, but doesn't feel like a film that's going to be that doesn't feel like a film that's leading you out of something great out of it. I mean, The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1 is probably one of the biggest examples of a film that had so much promise to it, but didn't really deliver a whole lot, and a lot of the best stuff was left over for the second half of the film, and that hurt that film big time when it was all said and done. But Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse really is one of those towering achievements that's just one of those films that's just really, it's just going to make it tougher and tougher for them to top what they've been doing here. But if they can stick the landing with this third film, Beyond the Spider-Verse, man, are they going to have something really special with this series. I mean, this is probably the best thing Sony has with Spider-Man right now. I mean, it's not even close. So, yeah. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, congratulations. You've won the second annual Reviewing Network Award for the best sequel of the year. And now the nominees for the best animated picture. Proof that animation is still doing much more than live action can do right now. I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but I know some people don't want to believe it, but animation is kicking the ever-loving crap of live action right now. It's not even close. These 7 nominees are the perfect example of why that is. Here are the nominees for the best animated picture. Elemental, Migration, Nimona, Ruby Gilman Teenage Kraken, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. And the winner is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Really? Are you that surprised? I mean, pretty much everything I said in the best secret category could easily be obtained in this movie here, but just 2023 overall was a phenomenal year for animation overall. We got a really good Pixar film with Elemental, a couple of really good Illumination films with Migration and also the Super Mario Brothers movie. DreamWorks had a really great underrated film that nobody went to see because I feel like DreamWorks was trying to abandon this movie altogether with Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken. Of course, I mentioned the Mona before. Paramount made a great film with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, but Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse really was that film that made me believe that animation really is head and shoulders above what live action could do right now. Like, Sony wishes that it could do what Across the Spider-Verse has been able to do, and Into the Spider-Verse could do with what they were been trying to do with this non-Spider-Man universe they've been trying to build with Venom, Morbius, and Madam Web, and it just can't do that. I mean, they're letting these guys do whatever they want with the Spider-Verse movies, and it's working out great for them. And they should not try to topple what's been doing with those live action films they've been trying to create. I mean, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse really is one of the true standouts of not just this year, but one of those films that we will indeed be talking about when the decade is over and when we're looking back on the best movies of the year. It's going to take a miracle for this film to not be very high up on the best movies of the decade. If not, something must have really come out then to really change my mind on that, because I feel like this is going to be this has to be at least top 5, at the very least top 5. If not, then we're in for a very good year if that's the case. But yeah, not much more I can add to that one. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, pick up your second award for the night, Best Animated Picture of 2023. So now we move on to the best screenplay category, and there were a lot of good screenplays. Some of them had the tough task of continuing storylines that had already been pre-established and making them into their very own thing. Some of them had some very unique ideas of how to take pre-existing franchises and make them into their own unique things. Some of them took ideas that should not work, especially if you're not going to have specific aspects to them, and yet somehow made it work very well. The 7 nominated films that were in this category for Best Screenplay are Air, written by Alex Convery; Barbie, written by Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach; Creed 3, written by Keenan Coogler and Zach Balan; The Holdovers, written by David Hemmingson; Godzilla Minus One, written by Takashi Yamazaki; Oppenheimer, written by Christopher Nolan; and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, written by Phil Lord, Chris Miller, and David Callum. And the winner is... The winner is Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer. Now, this was a very, very tough category for me to do with because, like I said, a lot of these movies had very challenging things to do. Like with Barbie, how do you create a movie that is basically about a doll that really is kind of plain and it's just basically and make something as great as something like as the movie Barbie is? How do you take something like Creed 3, where you don't have the man who kind of led into this, Rocky Balboa, in any way, shape, or form, and create something new out of it? How do you make a movie about Air Jordans without Michael Jordan? How do you make a movie like Godzilla Minus One with human characters that you actually give a shit about? Even something like with Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, how do you top with what you've done before? This was a very tough one for me to choose from, but I picked Oppenheimer solely because of one single important thing. Oppenheimer keeps you so invested in what's going on. Even though it's a 3-hour film, you're so invested in what's going on because the acting is so good. The writing is very well done. So much is going on, even when you're expecting the bomb to hit. Like, when the bomb hits, it's still only 2 hours into the film, so there's still an hour's worth of movie that is yet to be taken into account yet after the bomb hits. Like, the bomb is still going on. It's like the bomb hasn't gone off. The bomb goes off, and there's still an hour of movie left because you're still trying to figure out all these different storylines going on here. This is about as good of an epic film as you can get, and only a man like Christopher Nolan, with the task that he was able to accomplish here, can do that. And I feel like that's the biggest accomplishment of the year for him, to make a movie as compelling and as engaging and as long as it is, without ever feeling boring in the slightest. And that's the power of Christopher Nolan. I feel like this will be his year when the Academy finally acknowledges that he is really a man that's worthy of at least a couple of Oscars, if at least just one. Like, I think Oppenheimer is going to be like Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's going to sweep this year, and rightfully so, because I think it's a film that definitely deserves all the attention that it gets, because it really is a truly terrific film. Oppenheimer really is one of the highlights of the year. It was a very tough choice here because, of course, Across the Spider-Verse is in there. I could have easily gone with that one, but Oppenheimer, I think, was the best overall screenplay of the 7 that I saw in this category. So, yeah, Oppenheimer, this is take your best screenplay Reviewing Network Award. That's the first of what should be many, what probably will be many tonight. I probably should say, but yeah, best screenplay of 2023 belongs to Oppenheimer. So let's get to the acting categories, and the supporting actress category had a lot of interesting choices this year in terms of performances. I think the Academy overlooked some of them. They did look at here, and my nominees at least were some of the nominees in this category at the Oscars. But there were some performances this year from movies that I liked that I think a lot of people overlooked. Some movies that were well received but didn't get the attention they deserved. But so let's take a look at some of those right now. These are the nominees for Best Supporting Actress, and they are Menina Hamambe for Godzilla -1, Davine Joy Randolph for The Holdovers, Emily Blunt for Oppenheimer, Florence Pugh for Oppenheimer, Ritu Arya for Polite Society, Danielle Brooks for The Color Purple, and Taraji P. Henson for The Color Purple. And the winner is Taraji P. Henson for The Color Purple. This was a performance, in fact, got severely overlooked this award season. I mean, The Color Purple overall was a film that I thought got overlooked severely this year. It was a film that did not do well at the box office. I thought it was a really good movie. It's not the Steven Spielberg film, but I liked its own unique vision of it. And it just has such a great cast overall to make this work as well as it does. I think Fantasia Barrino is great. Danielle Brooks is really good in this movie as well. You know, Coleman Domingo, Corey Hawkins, Halle Bailey, Louis Gossett Jr. Taraji P. Henson, to me, I thought was going to be the one thing about this movie that I thought was going to be the one thing that was, if anything, that'd be the one thing that surely was going to get a supporting actress nomination. And nobody nominated her. At least in the Academy Awards they didn't, but she did get nominated. I shouldn't say nobody, but no, the Golden Globes didn't nominate her. You know, the Screen Actors Guild Award didn't nominate her. A lot of the performances in The Color Purple are great, but I thought Taraji P. Henson really was one of the best moments of the movie. I thought she just it just shows why she's such a terrific actress and a criminally underrated actress who doesn't really, I think, get the proper respect she deserves. I mean, even on a show like Empire, which is not that great, she steals the show as Cookie Lyon. I mean, she's the reason why that show has any memorability to it whatsoever. And, like, she's been a terrific actress for so many years. I've been such a fan of hers for so many years. And I thought The Color Purple was going to be that moment where she might have a chance to actually get a nomination and maybe even win. But again, it was a really tough category to choose from. A lot of great performances in this, including Godzilla -1 with Menina Hamambe, Davine Joy Randolph, who's the front runner for The Holdovers. A couple great performances from Oppenheimer with Emily Blunt and Florence Pugh. Ritu Arya from Polite Society is great, and of course Danielle Brooks. But of all the performances that stuck out to me the most in this year's crop of films, Taraji P. Henson, to me, was easily the best one in my personal opinion. So Taraji P. Henson, congratulations. The Academy Awards may not give you an Oscar at some point down the road, but if they don't, you can always be glad to know that there will be a Reviewing Network Award waiting for you here. Assuming you know what this is. I mean, yeah, I know most of these people probably will not know what this is, but hey, I gotta give Pitt some credit. They gotta get some credit here. I mean, right? But I digress. For every supporting actress, there has to be a supporting actor. So let's go ahead and take a look at the 7 nominees for the Best Supporting Actor category. And this year's nominees are Ben Affleck for Air, Jonathan Majors for Creed 3, Robert De Niro for Killers of the Flower Moon, Dominic Sessa for The Holdovers, Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, Ryan Gosling for Barbie, and Hugh Grant for Wonka. And the winner is Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer. This is one of those ones where when I saw the movie Oppenheimer and I saw Robert Downey Jr. giving the performance he gave, I thought to myself, that's got to be the Best Supporting Actor winner. I mean, this has got to be the time where, you know, kind of like with Taraji P. Henson, with Robert Downey Jr., if he doesn't get at least an Oscar nomination, is like something's wrong with the Academy, because he really was one of the defining performances in Oppenheimer. He was so terrific in the film, playing Louis Strauss, and he just commands the screen whenever he's on screen. I mean, it's a performance that you look at and you think to yourself, man, like, he should have had at least maybe one or two Oscars at this point. Like, if he doesn't get it for this, like, something clearly is wrong with the Academy Awards. Even though there are a lot of good nominees this year at the Oscars, Ryan Gosling, of course, as great as Ken and Barbie, and some might say it's a tough call between him and Robert Downey Jr. But in terms of the performance that I thought carried the film, I thought the best overall performance. Like, Ryan Gosling is hilarious in Barbie. I think he gives a great, towering performance in that movie. But Robert Downey Jr. just to me is like one of the best things about that movie. It's one of the things that sticks with you when that movie is over. It's just like, when the hell is this guy going to get his proper respects? And will this year finally be the year that the Oscars finally breaks the "we're not going to give you an Oscar because you were on Saturday Night Live" curse? I mean, this is something that's been affected people like Dan Aykroyd. It's been affected people like Eddie Murphy, Bill Murray. Kristen Wiig was nominated for writing Bridesmaids. I mean, the only person who's ever won an Oscar for working on anything for Saturday Night Live was Adam McKay. Like, Adam McKay won an Oscar for writing The Big Short, and there's probably a couple of other people that were like, I'm talking like people who were in the cast of Saturday Night Live or had worked on Saturday Night Live. And I'm probably missing some people in particular, but as of right now, as of the time of recording this, there has never been an acting cast member on Saturday Night Live that has won an Oscar and I think this year finally breaks the mold. I think Robert Downey Jr. is finally going to get it, because remember, Robert Downey Jr. was in the cast of the 1985 season, the one where Lauren came back. Didn't work out very well. He was only gone after 1 year, but still technically counts. He's still technically an SNL cast member. So yeah, I feel like this is a year where Robert Downey Jr. should be considered the front runner and should win the award. Now, in terms of the other names in here, one of the names that sticks out the most is Jonathan Majors in Creed 3. And look, Jonathan Majors is looking at some pretty rough times right now. But I'm not going to take that away from his great acting overall. I think his acting in Creed 3 was really fantastic. I thought he did so well. He proved that he's got acting chops in the future, but after what happened, I don't know what's going to happen to him. I know he's going to jail for a little bit here, but if he can get his act together and get back on track again, maybe he's got a future ahead of him. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. had the same thing happen to him too. I mean, let's not forget about the troubling times he had, and look what's happened to him. I mean, but yeah, Robert De Niro is not a surprise in here. Ben Affleck, Dominic Sessa, Hugh Grant was really one of the things I really liked about Wonka, even though I did not like that movie a lot. When Hugh Grant came on screen, I thought he was actually one of the best things about the movie, and this is coming from somebody that did not like the movie all that well. But in terms of the best overall performance in this category, I have to give it to Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr., this is yours. Best Supporting Actor Reviewing Network Award for 2023. So let's get to the main acting categories, and that is Best Actress. A very, very tough list of ladies in this list, all giving fantastic performances all around. A tough choice for me to pick on this one, but here are the nominees for Best Actress. Margot Robbie for Barbie, Fantasia Barrino for The Color Purple, Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon, Halle Bailey for The Little Mermaid, Jennifer Lawrence for No Hard Feelings, Chloe Grace Moretz for Nimona, and Priya Kansara for Polite Society. And the winner is Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon. Again, like I said, a very, very tough list for me to choose from, because you've got a lot of great performances in this year's categories for films that probably did not get the proper respect they deserve. And I mean, some people are very mixed on films like The Little Mermaid and No Hard Feelings, but I thought Halle Bailey and Jennifer Lawrence carried those films overall, where I thought they should be nominated. Again, this is a list of the films the best films I saw in 2023 and the best performances overall. I really like Polite Society, I really like Nimona, I really like The Color Purple, and I really like Barbie. But Lily Gladstone is one of those performances where once you see Killers of the Flower Moon and you see why she's gotten the praise she does, you realize that this woman's a really damn good actress. I mean, she's been in a lot of stuff beforehand. You may have seen her on shows like Billions, and especially on Reservation Dogs. She's done a ton of movies too. First Cow, Quantum Cowboys, Fancy Dance, Tuca and Birdie, she was on that show. But in Killers of the Flower Moon, this is a star-making performance right here. She really plays a woman who she survives a really rough situation, and she has to really compete with chemistry between her and Leonardo DiCaprio in the performances that she has in this movie, and she really does carry a lot of the emotional support load of the film. I mean, she really has to work with these titans of acting, Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro, and the fact that Scorsese was able to get this out of her, it's just like, good job, man. Like, Martin Scorsese still knows what he's doing after all these years. I mean, and Lily Gladstone, I think, really is the best aspect of that movie. It's the one thing that carries the load of the film overall, and like I said, it's the best performance overall of the performances this year in the Oscars and just in my picks this year. And like I said, there are a lot of great choices overall from the choices I have here. Like, like I said, The Little Mermaid was not a well-received film critically, but Halle Bailey, I knew from the moment that first trailer came out a couple years ago, she was going to be the breakout thing of that movie, and definitely deserved to get some recognition. Maybe not a Best Actress Oscar nomination, but at least some praise overall, because she really was one of the best things about that. She really was the best thing about that movie. Jennifer Lawrence, I thought this was a nice return to form for her after being away for so many years in No Hard Feelings, where the raunchy comedy came back with her involved in it. And, Chloe Grace Moretz, what more can I say about that performance in The Moan? I mean, that's a character that was made for an actress like her. And Priya Kansara for Polite Society, criminally underrated movie. If you have not seen Polite Society, please do so. It is definitely well worth the watch. No question about that one. But the winner of this category overall is Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon. Fantastic film, fantastic performance. Best Actress of 2023, Lily Gladstone. Congratulations on your Viewing Network Award. So let's go ahead and move on now to the nominees for Best Actor. And the nominees are Matt Damon for Air, Michael B. Jordan for Creed 3, Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers, Leonardo DiCaprio for Killers of the Flower Moon, Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, Rinosuke Kamiki for Godzilla Minus One, and Shameik Moore for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And the winner is Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer. Again, a very tough category for me to choose from, with all the great performances involved in here. I mean, you got Matt Damon, Michael B. Jordan, Paul Giamatti, Leonardo DiCaprio, Shameik Moore, Rinosuke Kamiki. But Cillian Murphy, I think, really stands out the most with playing J. Robert Oppenheimer. I mean, this is a great character actor. He's essentially a character actor because he has not done a ton of leading roles, and even the ones where he has had the leading role, I don't think he's gotten the proper respect for it. He's done great things like Red Eye, and of course he was the Scarecrow in the normal Batman films. But Oppenheimer truly is a film where he gets to show everybody that, hey, I've got as much acting chops as some of the biggest names in Hollywood. I've got a chance. I'm going to prove that to you in this film. And boy, does he do it ever. I mean, he's got to do a lot of acting in this movie, ranging from all these different emotions, trying to keep his composure, trying to keep it all together, trying to not go over the limits. And he certainly does that and more in this film. This is a standout performance from Cillian Murphy, who really shows his capabilities and what he's able to do as an actor overall. Just a truly spectacular actor overall, and I think this is him finally getting the respect he deserves. Not much more to say about this one I haven't already said already. Cillian Murphy is just a brilliant actor in this film. Truly a spectacular performance. Oppenheimer, Cillian Murphy. What more do I gotta say? Best Actor 2023. That's all I gotta say. So let's go ahead and move on to the Best Director category. Six choices to choose from here. The 6 nominees for Best Director are Greta Gerwig for Barbie, Michael B. Jordan for Creed 3, Takashi Yamazaki for Godzilla Minus One, Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, Joaquin DeSantis, Kemp Powers, and Justin K. Thompson for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and Jeff Rowe for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem. And the winner is... I should say the winners are Joaquin DeSantis, Kemp Powers, and Justin K. Thompson for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Again, very tough category to choose from. It was a two-horse race between Christopher Nolan and the trio from Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. But Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse had a lot of difficult tasks ahead of them, including, trying to replace what Phil Lord and Chris Miller were able to do with the first Spider-Verse film. And they got three very, very good directors overall to make this work. I mean, you've got Ken Powers, who is already a phenomenal person in general in terms of the stuff he's been behind. I mean, he wrote and directed One Night in Miami. He wrote One Night in Miami, I should say. Excuse me. He also wrote for Star Trek Discovery. He also wrote and co-directed Soul, which is a criminally underrated Pixar film at this point. He was the director, of course, on Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and he also had to be teamed up with Joaquin Dos Santos, who's done a ton of great animated stuff. Justice League Unlimited, Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Legend of Korra, G.I. Joe: Resolute, and Justin K. Thompson, who is what I believe is a newer animator. I'm not sure what else he's done. He's probably done something I've been familiar with, but Phil Lord and Chris Miller did not direct this movie. They did write and produce it, though. But Dave Callahan, who also wrote the first film, came back for it, and these three directors had a really tough task to work with here, especially with the animation that is all throughout this film, having to have it all come together into one amalgamation and just turn out one of the most brilliantly executed and well-made animated films that it's such a visual accomplishment on so many levels. It was a very tough call between this and also Christopher Nolan, because Christopher Nolan also had a very tough task as well, but with Oppenheimer. But in terms of a movie that had a lot to risk on it with what they were trying to accomplish and what they were able to do, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse really was something that these three directors really had a tough task to work with, but it paid off big time. It paid off big time in a number of different ways, and it definitely shows that this film definitely deserves to win numerous awards, and I made the right decision, I think, to give this the Best Director Award, so the Best Directors Awards at this point. So congratulations, gentlemen. You win the Reviewing Network Award for Best Director for your work on Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So now, of course, before we get to the Best Picture Award, it's time for the second annual Reviewing Network Achievement Award. And this is the award where we look at Hollywood in general. We take a look at some of the best overall entertainers, filmmakers, actors, actresses, writers, directors, producers, you name it, and honor one of them, looking back on their film career, looking back on why their achievements must be immortalized in this category. Last year, we took a look at the works of Steven Spielberg, who had the honor of accepting the first Reviewing Network Achievement Award. And now for this year, I want to give the second Reviewing Network Achievement Award to an actor that I consider to be the greatest actor of all time, and somebody that anytime a new movie comes out with him in there, I'm always there opening weekend. And that man is, of course, Denzel Washington. Denzel Hayes Washington Jr. was born on December 28, 1954, in Mount Vernon, New York. He was an American actor, producer, and director in a career spanning over 4 decades. Washington has received numerous accolades, including a Tony Award, 2 Academy Awards, 3 Golden Globes, and 2 Silver Bears. He was honored with the Cecil B. DeMille Lifetime Achievement Award in 2016, the AFI Life Achievement Award in 2019, and in 2020, the New York Times named him the greatest actor of the 21st century. In 2022, Washington received the Presidential Medal of Freedom. After training at the American Conservatory Theater, Washington began his career in theater, acting in performances off-Broadway. He first came to prominence in the NBC medical drama St. Elsewhere in 1982, even though he had appeared in a film before that, Carbon Copy, in 1981, where he played, of all things, the son of George Segal, who was a white guy. Yeah, it was a very interesting time. He was also in the film A Soldier Story, and Washington has won Academy Awards for Best Supporting Actor for his performance in Glory in 1989, as well as for Best Actor as playing a corrupt cop in Training Day. His other Oscar-nominated roles were in Cry Freedom in 1987, Malcolm X in 1992, The Hurricane in 1999, Flight in 2012, Fences in 2016, Roman J. Israel Esquire in 2017, and The Tragedy of Macbeth in 2021. He established himself as leading man with starring roles in Mo' Better Blues, Mississippi Masala, Philadelphia, Courage Under Fire, Remember the Titans, Man on Fire, Inside Man, and American Gangster. He starred in the Equalizer trilogy. Washington has also directed and starred in films such as Antoine Fisher, The Great Debaters, and of course Fences. Washington made his Broadway debut in 1988 in Checkmates. He won the Tony Award for Best Actor in a Play for starring in the Broadway revival of August Wilson's play Fences in 2010. He later directed and produced and starred in the film adaptation of said show. Washington has since returned to Broadway in the revivals of the Lorraine Hainsbury play A Raisin in the Sun and the Eugene O'Neill play The Iceman Cometh. He also has an education at Fordham University where he has a Bachelor's of Arts degree, has been married for 40-plus years, and has 4 children, including his son, John David Washington. I mean, when you think of the defining actors in the business, Denzel is usually a name that comes up many, many times, and he definitely deserves the honor. Sometimes a great Denzel Washington performance can overlook a really bad movie. And, there have been some bad Denzel Washington movies. Not bad movies, but movies that are just kind of like, they weren't necessarily bad, they just weren't up to par with what they should be. Even though Washington's given it his all, like, The Great Debaters is the perfect example of a film. This is the second film he did after Antoine Fisher, and the biggest problem with this movie is that it's kind of your typical underdog story, and a lot of the acting in this was very kind of wooden and bland. And for watching, you kind of expect a little bit more from him than this, but I think we all kind of overlooked it because that same year he made American Gangster, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. But some other movies that I don't think are necessarily are great films with him in them. Heart Condition is one of those examples. It's kind of a generic comedy with Bob Hoskins in it, and I mean, it's a bad movie, but then again, there was also a far worse 1990 comedy about a black doctor playing a ghost in it with, which I don't think I need to say anymore about that movie was, but, Deja Vu was one of those ones that felt like a movie that was like, it felt like a movie that could have worked, but it kind of screws up the time travel aspect big time, and you can't do that because what this movie does is create some of the biggest plot holes you could possibly have for a movie, and the film suffers because of it. Safe House, with some usually reliable actors, not just Washington, but also Ryan Reynolds, they keep the movie afloat, but the script is so poorly written, and the film has so many flaws to it. I don't hate it, I just wish it could have been a whole lot better, but probably the worst thing Denzel Washington's ever done as an actor is probably Two Guns, and it kind of gets a simplistic, predictable action movie that we've seen done to death so many times. I mean, the movie takes all the same lame-brain moves that something like The Bourne Legacy did. Only not quite as horrendous as the movie was, but I really wanted to like Two Guns, but him and Mark Wahlberg just couldn't save that movie from being a terrible film. It's uninspired, it's a lazy film, it kind of takes the cheap way out at times, and the story doesn't make a lot of sense. The villains are not that strong. It's just not enjoyable to watch, and I expect a lot better from a guy like Denzel Washington and Mark Wahlberg, but even them couldn't save that movie in general. But I know this is supposed to be honoring the legacy of Denzel Washington, but he has made a lot of great films that are very much films that should be talked about in a number of different levels. I mean, you should be seeing films like the underrated gems, like The Mighty Quinn and Mississippi Masala. Like, those are films that really are criminally underrated movies. A movie like Cry Freedom, as where he plays Steve Biko, well, absolutely incredible film. Mo Better Blues. Mo Better Blues is a terrific film. The Pelican Brief, a pretty good movie. Crimson Tide is a very good film. Devil in a Blue Dress, criminally underrated film. Easily one that should be seen. Book of Eli is a great film. Taking a Pelham 123 is one I really like. What else do we have? Ma Rainey's Black Bottom is very good. There's been a couple of ones that have not been that great. A Journal for Jordan, which he directed, was not that strong. Little Things. I thought it was good in The Magnificent Seven. Flight is really good. But what are some of the best ones overall? What are the top 5 best Denzel Washington films that I could say, you need to see these movies? Like, you need to see these films to show what a great actor Denzel Washington is. And like I mentioned before, number 5 is American Gangster, which I think is one of the best movies from the first decade of the 2000s. You got Russell Crowe and Denzel Washington reuniting for the first time since Virtuosity. They do a great job. It's one of Ridley Scott's best movies. Steve Cicilline does a great job of adapting the story, making a film that follows the true story of Washington's Frank Lucas to a T, with a great, phenomenal supporting cast, also doing a great job. It keeps you entertained throughout, and it's a movie that is well worth a watch. Of course, I got to mention Malcolm X. At the peak of Spike Lee's directorial career, he reunited with Washington for the 3rd time in a really phenomenal performance. In a movie that's nearly 3 hours long, but nevertheless, the movie keeps you so invested in what's going on that you really do not mind the long running time at all. And just a towering achievement on his part in that film. Philadelphia, one of the most influential movies of the 1990s. Washington's performance is great in the movie. And he manages to keep up with Tom Hanks, who's giving this powerhouse performance. And it's kind of the equivalent of the 90s equivalent of something like To Kill a Mockingbird, taking a touchy subject for the time, doing it without being afraid to speak out the truth, for, like some other movies tried to do as of recently, Concussion. I think of a couple of other ones in particular, but number 2 is Training Day. You know, when you talk about Denzel Washington's best movies, Training Day is one of those ones that's just impossible not to include in there. Alonzo Harris is one of those great performances, and you can just see how much Washington puts his heart and soul into this role, and he just nails it. The final speech is one of the most badass and chilling moments of the film, and it features some of the most quotable lines of any movie in recent memory. I mean, you know, King Kong ain't got S on me. I mean, that's pretty much all you got to say about that one. But by far, his best movie, and my favorite Denzel Washington movie of all time, is, of course, Man on Fire, directed by Tony Scott. It's a movie that's so good that many people consider this to be the definitive Punisher movie, and for the most part, they're right. I mean, if you take Denzel Washington's character, John Creasy, and just change the name of him to Frank Castle, you would have what would easily be considered a Punisher movie. Washington is great in the film. The action is great. The acting by the rest of the cast is superb. Dakota Fanning is really fantastic in the film. Like, she's able to stay with Denzel Washington in this film, and it's great to see them reunite again recently in The Equalizer 3. And it just keeps you on the edge of your seat all the way to the very end. Like, this is a really, really well-made movie, a really damn good thriller, with a lot of great performances overall. Christopher Walken's very good in the film as well. Radha Mitchell, Rachel DeConton, Mickey Rourke, Mark Anthony, with a great script by Brian Helgeland. It's maybe not the best Denzel Washington performance overall, but it's the one movie that I always go back to every once in a while, because it's just like, that's one of my favorite action thrillers of all time. Man on Fire, it's just a towering achievement. But Denzel Washington's career features a lot of towering achievements, even in movies where I don't think they got the proper respect they deserve, but they definitely deserve the attention that they deserve. I mean, The Tragedy of Macbeth is one of those movies that came out a couple years ago that I thought was just really, really damn good. Directed by Joel Coen. Criminally underrated film. I think the Equalizer films are very underrated too. I mean, not a lot of people realize it, but those are the only sequels he's ever done as a filmmaker, as an actor. And that's something where, you know, actors do a lot of sequels, but those are the films that he's so committed to. He's also the producer on them. The fact that he's able to come back and do those films, that really says a lot about how much he likes playing that role a lot. And you could distance those movies compared to the Queen Latifah show that's been on the last couple of years, and you wouldn't have missed a thing. But with all that said, Denzel Washington really is that actor that I consider to be the top tier actor. I mean, he's a guy that will always give a great performance no matter what he's in, and it'll always feel like a very different performance, even though it may not feel like it's a very different performance, but it definitely feels like it's very, very different and very unique for him. Even in films where he's trying to save it, but he just can't do it, he'll usually give 110% no matter what he does. I mean, he's a guy that really does show his capabilities as an actor. He's shown why he's been one of the best actors for 40 plus years, and why he's easily considered the person I need to give a special award to. So Denzel Washington, if you're watching out there, if you're listening out there, I don't know if you even know who I am, but congratulations. I'm proud to make you the recipient of the 2nd Annual Reviewing Network Achievement Award. Congratulations to Denzel Washington for receiving the 2nd Annual Reviewing Network Achievement Award, and your kids are, and I hope your kids are going to be as good actors as you are, because right now your son John David Washington is really turning out to be one of the bright young actors we have right now, apparently his other son Malcolm Washington is going to be a director too. So I'm very curious to see where that goes from there. But congratulations to Denzel Washington for receiving the 2nd Annual Reviewing Network Achievement Award. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the last category of the evening, and that is, of course, the Best Picture category. The 10 nominees here, if you saw my top 10 films list, you pretty much know what the nominees are, but if you didn't, here are the nominees for Best Picture of 2023. Barbie, Cocaine Bear, Creed 3, Godzilla -1, Nimona, Oppenheimer, Polite Society, Rye Lane, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. And the Reviewing Network Awards Best Picture of 2023 is presented to... The winner is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And again, it was a very, very tough category to choose from. A lot of great movies in this category. Oppenheimer was a close second. Creed 3 was 3 on my list. But I have to give it to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse for everything that it did, everything that it accomplished. A lot of great movies in my top 10 list did a lot of things that I did not expect for it to accomplish as well as they did. Even with the towns that they had on board with it. Barbie, I thought, was one of those ones where it was one of those lightning in a bottle moments where I feel like it's going to happen once, and I don't think anybody's really ever going to top that. Oppenheimer is just a prime example of why Christopher Nolan is probably the greatest filmmaker, one of the great filmmakers we have right now. And Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was just such a towering achievement in terms of not just an animated film, but just a film in general, that it'd be impossible not to give this to the best movie of the year. The best picture of the year should be the best picture that I saw in 2023, and that is without a doubt what Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse accomplished. And it just makes me more, and the fact that they were able to do what they were able to do and keep you so invested in what's going to happen next with the way that it ended, like, they better stick the landing with Beyond the Spider-Verse, because if they end this on the third film on a if this third film ends on a sour note, I'm not going to say it's really going to hurt the overall enjoyment of the first two movies, but man, it would just feel like a letdown if the third film, if the fact that they've been delayed in this film for so long because the script wasn't ready yet, or they had trouble with the animation overall, because of the strikes and all that from last year, like, it just really needs to be, they really need to find a way to stick the landing here, and I hope that that's what they're doing. I hope Sony doesn't interfere with this. I hope they just let them keep doing what they're doing here, and I just hope it works out in the end. But Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse really is the film that stuck out to me as the best overall film of 2023. There's no question about it that it is the best picture of the year, from the animation perspective, from the writing perspective, from the casting perspective, from the story perspective, from the action perspective, from everything that was accomplishing. It's just a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece on so many levels. And as I said before, and I'll say it again, we're going to be talking about this as one of the best movies of the decade, hands down, if not very high up on the list. So, not much more to say about that one, but Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, congratulations for winning the Best Picture Award of 2023. And again, sorry that this is not presented in the way I've been doing it the last couple of years, but other things got in the way. But wanted to get this out there just in time before the Academy Awards happen. So, just like I did last year, I will present my Oscar predictions and my thoughts in the end credits here. Thank you so much for watching the 2024 presentation of the Reviewing Network Awards. If you like what you saw and you want to see more of the stuff that I do here, hit the like and subscribe button. Check out my social media outlets. And thank you for watching. And I will see you guys next year, hopefully with a bigger show than usual. So thank you so much for watching. And good night, everybody. Thank you for watching. Good night.